When I was asked by Sue if I would help out with today's event, without a doubt I was like, oh sure, absolutely. That was before I knew that I was going to be the key speaker of the day. And after finding out that, I was a little bit more nervous. Following up Mary Ruth from last year, I knew I had a big act to follow. And I had no clue what I was going to do. But I knew that I had told Sue that I would, and that was what I was going to do. I was going to help in any way that I could. She told me that the theme was going to be butterflies, and that her main theme with that was, until you spread your wings, you have no idea how far you can fly. And we talked for a little while about that. And this last year, whenever we went to Women of Faith, we were privileged to get to hear a guy named Andy Andrews speak. And he talked about the butterfly effect. And this is a thesis that was actually written by a guy named Edward Lorenz. And he was a mathematician and a meteorologist. And one day he decided that he was going to prove, being the mathematician that he was, prove how there were patterns in the weather and that they followed certain patterns and that each time it followed the same scenario. But what he found was that his thesis became known as the butterfly effect. And the main thing that he had to prove was that one small change can create massive changes in the end, that one small event can make a big difference. What he did is he created simulations on his computer, and he created the simulation for the weather. It worked out about the same each time, but he was in a hurry one day, and so he started it in the middle of the simulation rather than at the end. In doing that and making that small change, the end result was massive. It was a big difference from what the original simulation had been. So he created this thesis. It was back in 1963, and people basically laughed him out of the room. They thought he was absolutely insane and that he was crazy for thinking that something as small as a butterfly flapping its wings could make air molecules move that would move other air molecules and eventually move other air molecules and other air molecules, and on the other side of the universe, or on the other side of the earth, it could affect the outcome of a hurricane. Well, in the 90s, people took a look at this again. I mean, it was something that was of interest. It definitely caught people's interest. And so they thought, well, let's take a look at this. And what they found out, that there was more truth in it than what they wanted to originally give him credit for. There was a lot more truth in it. And that it doesn't just affect the molecules in the air, but it also affects other things too, including humans. That humans, each and every one of us in this room, are a human example of the butterfly effect. That every single one of us, with each and every thing that we choose to do, we can have an effect on others around us. Not just on our family members, like my mother did for me, but on our community, on people's lives that we have never even met. You know, we have several examples of that, even within our church. I know that whenever we went to Women of Faith, there were a group of 3 of us from our church that went to Women of Faith 2 years ago. Well, 3 years ago now, but 2 years ago. And we came back so on fire. And out of that, there came a group of Women of Faith members that went last year from our church. We started an Awanas group. There were several things just within one board meeting that, you know, we brought up 3 or 4 different things, and they were like, man, these ladies are on fire. There is something going on here. But it was one person that had invited us to go And the examples that we saw at that conference set things in motion. And we have the Awana program where we've touched lives of these kids in our community. And we may never see the results of what happens in their lives and how those individual times of touching their lives will affect their future. There are several books and movies that have used this example that have been based on the idea of the butterfly effect. One being Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder. It was made into a movie as well that showed going back to the past and like time travel, and that one butterfly was accidentally, they stepped off the path and one butterfly was stepped on and it changed the entire future. Things like the movie The Butterfly Effect, the movie Pay It Forward, talking about the examples that you can set and not expecting anything in return, but doing something kind for someone else, and the ripple effect that it can have on people's lives. One small action, any small action that we do, can have a much stronger reaction over time. The decisions that we make, the examples that we set, the main thing that I want to stress is that our lives matter. We were perfectly and wonderfully made, and we were made with a purpose. We are here on this earth with a purpose. And the things that we do and the choices that we make, we may not think that they're a big thing and that they matter, but each and everything that we do matters to the people directly around us and may affect people that we've never even met. But they make a difference. Each and every one of you make a difference in someone's life. Generations to come that will be touched by the decisions that we make today, it just astounds me how, that butterfly effect, that ripple, a ripple in the water going out to affect lives that we may never know. There was a story, and it was really funny because I work with the youth. For anybody that knows me here at the church, I work with the youth a lot, and in preparing this, I had thought about in the earlier time, like whenever I first started thinking, what am I going to say? And I had thought about this story that I had seen on an email, a forward. And I had thought about this story, and it was so ironic because we were talking with our youth the other day, and Christina McGinnis was telling them about this story, and she brought up the same story that I had been thinking about prior that I was going to share today. And I thought, okay, God, I hear you loud and clear. It was a story about a kid, and he was walking home from school carrying a huge pile of books, and he had his hands just completely full, and there was this girl that was walking by, and he stumbled and he dropped his books, and so she stopped and she helped him. She picked him up, smiled at him, gave him a smile, and told him to have a good day, walked with him for a little while, and then let him go on his way. They became friends. They talked a lot and had a lot of times that they shared throughout their school years. And at graduation, this same boy, the boy that had been walking home carrying his books, became valedictorian. And so he got to speak at graduation. At graduation, he got up to speak, and he said, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for one person. He said, she's been an awesome friend to me. She's been somebody that really touched my life. He said, there was several years back that I came and I cleaned out my locker because I was going to end my life. I was done. I was ready to check it in. And I didn't want my mom to have to come and clean out my locker for me. So I decided when I went home that day that I was going to clean everything out of my locker and take it home so that I didn't burden her. And on the way home, I tripped. I had my hands full, books went flying everywhere. And this one girl took the time to stop and help out someone that she didn't even know. And her smile is the reason that I'm here today. She smiled at me and she touched my life. And it changed my life forever. And this was the first time that that girl had even known that it had touched her life. That she had touched a life just by being kind to someone else. You know, I can't stress enough that the Women of Faith conference that we've gone to has each time really, really touched my life, and I know it's touched several others' lives as well. But whenever Sue asked me to speak today, like I said, I wasn't sure what I was going to say, and I hope I've done it justice. But I just want to leave you with the thought that you never know what you're capable of until you spread your wings.